investing. So I really wanted to make this video about investing basics for us students because when I was in first year, investing was essentially a unicorn world where only the rich who had money were able to grow their money. And Lana was just like, as a broke student, don't need to worry about that. But then I went to business school and I learned about something called inflation. It made me realize that putting my money into a checking or savings account, putting it aside, does not mean that it will have the same value by the time I actually want to spend it in a few years from now. I was like, I need to start investing. But at that point, I didn't know where to start. So I got my awesome colleague Hassan to come and give you guys the same advice that he provided a bunch of other students when he was a financial advisor at one of Canada's banks. I'll link all of his information down below, including his YouTube channel and his Instagram for you guys to check out, and also message him if you have any more questions. With that said, let's get into it. When I was a student, I didn't understand why I should bother investing. I just thought, place the money in the checking account or the savings account and you're set. So can you explain why even bother?
So the first argument for investing is that if you can make money, why not, right? Investing is just another tool for us to make money, and it has been working for a very long period of time. The stock market, we have real estate, there are a lot of different options. The second argument for it is that if you keep your money in a checking account, a lot of people don't know about this, but you're actually losing money. There's something called inflation, and it's year over year. It's about 2 to 3%. Now this year, 2021, it's going to be a little bit higher just because of the crazy things with pandemic and economy and all this new money that's coming. So if you are keeping your money in a checking account, let's say if their inflation is 2%, it means your money worth 2% less compared to last year, meaning that your purchasing power with the same amount of money is less. That's another reason that you might want to start investing.
So let's say I'm like, okay, it makes sense to invest. I want to start investing. Where do I start? Where do I look? Who do I go to?
Where you start investing is obviously doing a budget to find out how we can afford putting money aside, how much money we have. Another great thing to follow is obviously putting money aside for emergency funds, food, the shelter, and different things that you'd need. You need at least 3 months of that away as an emergency fund, just in a saving account. And from there, you can start allocating and having different goals for other needs.
So I'm just going to pause real quick here and explain what usually happens after you're done your budgeting. Basically, you have 3 options. The first one is to go into the branch of, for example, one of Canada's large banks, and you would go see a banking or a financial advisor, and you would talk about your life goals, your savings goals, what you're trying to get out of it in a few years. And from there, they're going to advise you on what to invest in. They won't tell you exactly what to invest in, but they will give you a general idea based off of your risk tolerance, etc., which we're going to talk about in just a second. Your second option is to not go into a branch, but if you are confident in your own abilities to determine your risk levels and what you want to invest in, then you can go online again on one of the large banking websites and open your own investment account. And then the third option is for you to go to a website, for example, Wealthsimple, Robinhood, although that's more for Americans, but to invest on online platforms where there would be no physical banks. Everything would be online. Because we have a lot of student debt, should we pay off the debt first or should we invest? How do we divide between that?
So that's a question about the interest, right? If you have something like a credit card debt that's 20% interest, what you need to do is you need to make that your priority. But as far as I'm concerned, you don't pay any interest towards your student loan while you're a student. In my opinion, what I would say, when your school is done and you are starting to pay off your student loan, you have to do both at the same time. When you do a budget, allocate a portion that goes to your student loan and a portion that goes to your saving. And the reason for that is when you are paid off your loan, you're also having this much money saved or invested at the same time.
So let's say that I have done my budgeting and I plan to invest. Let's say I have $200 monthly to invest. Where Like, what do I do now?
The first thing a financial advisor at any institution would tell you is one investment product is not appropriate for each person. And what that means is I can't, as an advisor or even as a person, I can't tell you you need to choose that investment because there's an element of risk involved and you might end up losing your money. So you need to really know what you're getting into. And in order to find out what type of investor you are, the financial advisors usually ask 3 questions. The first one is your objective. So for a student, your goals might be, paying off your student debt, maybe buying a car, maybe traveling, eventually buying a house at some point. So those would be your objectives. That's the first question you would ask. The next one is your time frame. So how long is it going to take you for you to achieve that goal? And the last question is your risk tolerance. It's very relative to your time frame. What that means is that if you have a short time frame, which is a year, 2 years, and you don't want to lose money within this time. So when you're thinking for a goal that is short time frame, you have to think about taking a very low risk on that type of investments because you want your money to be safe and secure. What we do is once we go through those 3 questions, we find out your objectives, then we start planning on figuring out what type of investment is appropriate.
Okay, so let's say I want to do it myself and I don't want to go to a financial advisor.
Yeah.
What would you suggest? Can I just do everything that you mentioned? What are my goals? What is my time frame? What is my risk?
There are companies like Wealthsimple that when you set up an account with them, they take you through the same questionnaires that I just asked you. If you want to go invest yourself, you have to have an information or knowledge of either a financial advisor or a portfolio manager, and you need to know all this. But usually an average person doesn't have that much knowledge. So what they would do is they would go towards a mutual fund or an ETF or an index fund. And what these are essentially is a basket that inside that basket there's different types of investments. There is stocks, there's bonds, there's different types of securities. So with mutual fund, you have someone called a portfolio manager. So there is a person who's working for you, choosing all these different stocks and balancing it out. And when you buy a mutual fund, you basically have a person who's looking after your money, right? And that's why a mutual fund, when you purchase it, it has a fee, which is called management expense ratio, which is around 2% usually. So you got to pay attention to that. Another option is something called ETF. And ETF is mainly a passive type of investment. There is no fund manager that is actively looking at it. It's mostly passively managed, which means you're investing in a whole bunch of different stocks in this basket, and it is in a different types of industry, and you're just hoping that those industry to do really good. That's the main difference between mutual fund and ETF.
I hear a lot about TFSA's tax-free savings account here in Canada. How does this fit into the entire, equation?
A tax-free saving account is a great account. The saving really throws it off. It should be just tax-free account because it's a basket that you can hold cash. You can hold different types of instrument, different types of securities like mutual funds, ETFs, different types of investment, right? And the reason it's such a great account is that your earnings, whatever you earn inside this tax-free saving account, is tax-free. So I'll give you an example. Back in 2017, I made some decision and purchased some stocks. Now that stock made $3,000 for me when I sold out my stock. If I didn't have this money in a tax-free saving account, I had to pay something called capital gain tax. Basically, that means that the $3,000 would add to my income and then I had to pay taxes on it. But because I had my money in a tax-free saving account, all of that earning, that capital gain, the $3,000 that I earned, was mine to keep.
Which one as a student should I choose? Like, I've heard about GICs too, bonds. Yeah. Compare that against mutual funds and even stocks.
It's about your objectives, your time frame, and your risk tolerance. But a very quick rule of thumb is you need the money within the next year or next 2 years. It has to be in a secure place. So if it's less than 1 year, probably a saving account is a great idea, just because you really want that money to be safe. If it's over 1 year, well, there are, as you said, guaranteed investment certificates or GICs or bonds that have a zero to very low risk of holding those securities, and that would be a great option for you. And if you're looking at 4 5 years or longer, then you can start thinking about investing into mutual funds and ETFs. And the reason for that is, if you put your money into mutual funds today and the market have a dip next year, it would usually take about 2 to 3 years for your money to recover, right? That's just the rule of thumb, because the stock market, it always goes up. Every time there is a crash, there is a bigger bounce back, but it would take some time for the money to be finally bounced back. And that's why we want to make sure your money is safe and secure. So you have to really think about your time frame.
So if this video was helpful for you, please give it a thumbs up and leave a comment down below in terms of what other questions you might have about investing for students, so that this could help more and more students.